Hello, good evening students. I am Madhuri from St. Peter's Engineering College. So now today the video, hello. So today we are discussing about the types of memories. In the last class we have seen the types of memories, right? RAM, ROM, and types of ROM family and RAM family. And what are the factors which is important for the embedded systems? What are the factors should be considered while choosing a memory in the embedded system? Okay, so like speed, power dissipation, power consumption, cost, flexibility, these all factors I have said some points. Okay, now in this, of course, in this again we will see a major difference between SRAM and DRAM. Okay, so already this about already in the before videos I have told what is SRAM and DRAM and what is their structure, okay, and what are the drawbacks of it. So SRAM is nothing but static RAM and DRAM is dynamic RAM. Static RAM we are using a CMOS transistors, whereas in DRAM we are using a MOSFET and a capacitor. Okay, so here in DRAM the capacitor is playing a major role. Okay, the capacitor, whatever the energy is sent, it will be saved in a capacitor as a storage element. The capacitor will get charged once the power supply is on in the memory, and the data will be stored in form of charge. Whereas in SRAM there is no charging, of course there is no backup. Even when the power is there, at the time only it can show the data. Okay, there is no storing much capacity in SRAM. Okay, static RAM. Okay, we are using here 6 MOS transistors. Okay, and of course here also we are using a MOSFET and a capacitor. Okay, that is the structural difference between the SRAM and DRAM. Okay, and here in SRAM we are not refreshing any data. Whatever the data we are sending into an SRAM, we are fixing it. But in DRAM we need to refresh because the capacitor, I already told it, has a storing capacity. Once the data is stored and the data is full and we need to we need to send the other data also, there is no storage capacity. At that time we need to refresh the data in form of charge which is there in the capacitor, so that it will requires refreshing. Overloading of a capacitor also damage the capacitor efficiency and it produces loss of charge, like leaking of power and a charge even when the power is off, so which is very bad to the device and it will affect the efficiency of the device. Okay, so that's why we must refresh the DRAM after maximum memory which we have stored. Okay, now the next difference is the low capacity, of course, because here there is no storage capacity more. In the SRAM we are having only low capacity. Okay, whereas in DRAM it is high capacity. It is more expensive, it is less expensive. Why? Because we are using here 6 MOS transistors and the structure is also very difficult, so it is expensive. Next, in DRAM, in SRAM, it is fast in operation and it can send data within 10 nanoseconds. But in DRAM it is slow in operation. Why? Because we need to refresh the requirements and it takes 60 nanoseconds. Okay, here we can write and read. Write operation is faster than read operation. Though it is taking a time process, we can do read and write operation in this process. Mostly we use the DRAM in all the devices. Of course in SRAM depends upon if the SRAM we need when for the small application devices. So this is a major 2 marks question, difference between the SRAM and DRAM. Okay, next. So this is about the basic system requirements. So what does the embedded system require? from a RAM, from a memory. It may be a RAM or a ROM. What does the embedded system requirements? So first of all, the embedded system requires a program, right? Of course, the embedded systems will have a code language, which is a embedded C program. So we need to have some memory to store the program. Of course, we will store the program always in ROM, okay? And of course, we will have some OS and we have some applications to run that OS, okay? So here, data memory for holding variables and temporary data during task execution. Here in embedded system, task execution is very important. What is a task? Task is a work given to a device. Okay. So it may be a number of tasks. It may be a number of tasks, a bunch of works which can be sent at the same time. So at that time, we need to have more memory to save more data in less time, and we should see that the data is stored properly, whereas temporary or permanent. Once the data is temporary, we can check and we can make it as permanent, because if you have any changes in that data. Okay, so maximum we will use non-volatile data which are modified by application. Okay, we can easily write and read. Okay, so because there may be error in a task sometimes, always the work cannot be 100% correct. So due to some problem in the program or some problem caused from the user when he is sending the data, or some devices problem, there may be a error in a data. So in order to check that, we need to have some memory which is not volatile. Okay, we can modify using that application. Okay, so the memory requirement for the embedded system in terms of RAM, in terms of RAM we are using both types of RAMs, and ROMs we are using EEPROM, flash and NVROM. See, there is no ROM, only ROM is not there. EEROM, electrically erasable ROM. Flash memory, it will flash the data, means it will clear the data within the fraction of the second. Okay, and non-volatile RAM. So, so we are saying RAM is a volatile. So we are having a RAM non-volatile. This we have discussed in the last videos. So here in non-volatile RAM, what is the difference is we will have a battery backup where we can save the data even the power is off. So that's why we are calling now RAM as non-volatile RAM. So these are all memories we will use in the embedded system, and these all depend upon the embedded system and applications which we are designing, depends upon the design. Okay, so there is no hard and fast rule for calculating the memory requirement. No need to calculate that. Okay, so but the thing is we need to consider what type of memory we need to select, what type of size of memory we need to require for embedded system is very important, because always the embedded system should require more number of memory, because the designing part, if it is very more large and the code is very long, we need to have lots of memory. So there is saying, giving one example, design of embedded based electronic toy. So nowadays we have all the toys which is related to this electronic, like robot, small robots, battery cars, battery battery toys. So nowadays there are some toys which will move, some cars which will move, and when that car touches the wall, any object in front of it, it automatically go back and again change the route and go. Means it is having the embedded system programming there. When an object comes, it will sense the data by using the sensors also in that, then it moves automatically back. No need to come and change. So it is automatically moving when the object is coming in front of it. These are all the best examples of this embedded system toys. Okay, Next is SoC or microcontroller. SoC is nothing but system on chip, which is nothing but our microcontroller we can select on the based of RAM and ROM and size of on-chip memory for the desires of embedded system. So either microcontroller or processor we can use, depends upon the type of memory we are using it. Okay. Next, if it is an on-chip memory, it is not sufficient. We need to add some external data. Okay. If it is off-chip, it is always good. Okay. If the embedded system is RTOS, RTOS based means real-time operating systems. So it consists of large amount of RAM. Okay. For its execution and ROM for storing the image. The real-time operating systems like our real-time devices like watch, uh, watch or washing machine, micro oven. These are all real-time. There we are using lot of RAM because we need so much of programming part for execution. Okay, and we are using this ROM for storing the RTOS image. Okay. Next, the RTOS suppliers give amount of runtime RAM requirements and program memory requirements for auto. So here RTOS require more amount of RAM requirements and also ROM requirements for program memory. Always we will use a program memory for ROM, and for running the data we will use a RAM. Okay, so this is very program memory is the code of the memory. Okay. Next is embedded, the same topic. So here we are using a smartphone device with Windows OS. Example for embedded device. So say a smartphones, if you see your mobile, if you go to the specifications in the settings, you will have specifications of your device. If you see that you will have a RAM of this much, ROM of this much, and it is whether Android or not, what type of processor it is, everything you will have, right? So we always have RAM and ROM, and we think that RAM should be very more and ROM then ROM, so that we can dump many devices in it. Okay, we can download apps, we can take photos, more memory we can use it, right? So here suppose Wi-Fi 512 MB of RAM and 1 GB of RAM are minimum requirement for running the mobile device. This is the minimum requirement for the mobile to run. And additional we can add RAM or ROR. RAM depends upon the user. Okay, that's why when any person ask about the mobile, he'll ask how much of memory your phone is having. So nowadays the memory is major part. Okay, now what is the memory requirements for install and run the user application without facing memory space? So we need to estimate what are the requirements we need to have it to install or to run any applications without facing memory space. Suppose if you are installing some app, and you should not think of the memory, whether this, if I download this app, I should have some, whether I have some memory or not. So this type of confusions you should not face. I'm just telling about the mobile. They are telling about the embedded systems, because embedded system always have many applications to send. It is not enough with one application. One application, similar task, but we need to have different application codes. Okay, but the task will be the same. Application will be the same application, same in the sense the format is same, but we may have more number of procedures. So applications will be very more, and the related tools also should be there in the embedded systems, so that we should not face any memory space. Okay, here we are selecting a memory based on the size of the memory, based upon the database and address bus size of the processor. This point we are already discussed before. These factors are very important when you are selecting a memory. Okay. Next comes the flash Here we are using a NOR flash. This also comes under a embedded system memory device. NOR flash is less defense and slightly expensive, but it supports executes in place. So here we are using electrically erasable PROM also, which will either available in serial interface or parallel interface. Okay, and we are using a controller of the device which supports serial interface to write and read the data. Okay, and parallel interface also we can do the same. Okay, and here in the EEPROM it will save the address space of the total system. Whatever the data we are sending, it will show the address of it. And the memory capacity of this device is expressed in bits or kilobytes. Okay, so these are all the some of the factors which are important to select a memory in the embedded system. Okay, so always we need to have more memory with more size, with electrically erasable and more address bus, more number of serial and parallel interface chip, so that the embedded system will work efficiently without the deficiency of memory space. Okay, next, so this is about the next topic, sensor and attenuators. So sensors means everyone know nowadays every device is having a sensor, right? So sensor is used for taking input, right? It is already, so sensor is everywhere. So it is a transducer that converts energy from one form to another for any measurement or control purpose. Example, a temperature sensor. Sensor is everywhere. Nowadays thermometer is there. Thermometer before we used to keep under the tongue and we used to see the line and identify. Nowadays there are battery temperature sensors. Like we have temperature sensors using this device. Nowadays when if you see the same temperature keeping under the tongue, after it reaches the maximum temperature of your body, how much temperature you have, after that it will start giving you a sound. So the sound says that it is the maximum level of the temperature you have. After that it stops. So the sensor is nothing but indirect, it is giving you input and it is taking an input and giving you output. Okay, nowadays in every malls we are having a sensor. Whenever we go, the automatically door open. If the smoke is more in the industry areas, okay, in the industry areas we may have a fire related problems. At that time we can have a sensors for bulging. 1 minute, 2, I'll just charge it up. And also we have sensors in medical also. In medicals how we are using a sensors. Even in the ECG also where they are using some sensors. And if you want to check the battery, if you want to check the battery device of any electronic device like battery backup and all, it will show the using the sensors only. Okay, I will show the pictures of the sensors in the next slide. Next is attenuators. So attenuators we are using for output. What does attenuator do? It will convert the mechanical or electrical energy and converts into a signals, or it may be do any physical action. Example, LED, light emitting diode. So we will have a diode. What we will do? We will give the power. That power will be converted into an electrical signals, which convert into a signals, and the light will glow. Our bulb also same. right? So when you on the light, the electrical signal will convert into a light energy and it will give some physical actions. Okay, LED is a PN junction diode which contains cathode and anode. Now if you want to function any anode which is connected to a positive end of the supply, and of course the cathode is always connected to the negative of the supply, what is the maximum current flowing within the LED will be connected to a resistor which is seriously between the that we are calling it as a load resistor. Okay, so this LED, whatever it is taking the current, it will take the maximum current, and limited we are giving connection to the resistor which is more, no need to have that. So in order to avoid the more load, okay, the device, that's why if you take any circuit, always near the output always we will have a resistor which is used as a load resistor, overload, which will stop the overload of the device. So always the embedded system is in constant interaction with the real world. Okay, controlling, monitoring functions which has happened using this sensors and attenuators. Okay, and any changes happening in the environment or variables are detected by the sensors. See, system environments are variables. Even in the weather also, so any say any heavy rainfall is there, or something bad weather is there, which is going to convert into a strong storm, and which is very danger. So that also there also they are using the sensors and attenuators will detect, which will detect by this devices, and it will give some signals to the persons users that something is wrong, please check. Okay, so these are very important for detecting of the system environment also. If the embedded system is designed for only for any controlling purpose, we need to control variables, so that we need to have some values, desired value. Okay, so always the input side will have a sensor and the output side will have a attenuators. Attenuators will convert the one form of energy into another form. So when it is converting, it may be converted to the electrical to mechanical to electrical, or electrical to sound, or electrical to light. It may be anything. Okay. So sensors and transducer device which converts energy from one form to another for the measurement of this control device. So example is half effect sensor, which is used between the cushion and management and smart running shoes from Adidas. So we have Adidas shoes. Nowadays we are having some magnet in the shoes. So whenever any object comes near the shoes, it will automatically give you a sound from the shoes. Okay, that is the new technology in the of the shoes. Okay, now IR, humidity, PR, ultrasonic, piezoelectric, smoke detectors. These are all where we are using this sensors, smoke detectors. We know, ultrasonic, humidity. Okay, so these are some pictures of the sensors. So ultrasonic sensors. So this is IR, infrared optical avoidance sensor. This, when any object comes, it automatically stops. Okay, and this is about the soil moisture. So if you want to test the soil quality, and you need to know how much of moisture in the soil has, so we can use this device and know the moisture quantity in the soil. So these are all the sensors. Okay, temperature sensor I already told about. If you have a fever, how do you check? By using this. Okay, same. Of course, the attenuator also converts the mechanical or electrical into signals, which is corresponding with the physical actions always. So here this micromotor, already discussed this point, which is used for any So any position of the question element is there, it start using this shoes. So these are few examples of these few pictures of the attenuators: webcam, microphone, printer, monitor, printer, speakers. So these are all one form of energy. These are all electrical energy which is converting into an signals, which is converting into some motions. Okay, see, if you take an example of a speaker, so the electrical signal is converted into sound signals. It comes into form of sound. Okay, whereas printer, if you take, the electrical signal will come in form of action. You will get a paper using. Okay, and if you take of a webcam, the electrical signal is converted into a video and audio signals where we can see. Okay, these are all conversion of the energy from one form to another. Okay, but sensor also will do, but mostly the attenuators are will be in motion type, physical type. Okay, so this is one of the silicon technology digital analog audio kit where we are using this attenuators. So one is used for temperature, one is used for taking signals, one is used for sound increase. Means how many, so all the applications we are using in one chip there. So that they have shown in one example. Okay, this is a chip. Okay, next. So next topic is communication interface. So what is the communication interface? Interface is nothing but we are doing some interface is nothing but we are giving some communication bridge. We are using some devices in order to maintain a communication with the embedded system. So what type of communication, what type of bridge it is? It is wireless or without wireless. What is the interface? Interface is connecting. Interface nothing but a connection between the device to a communication device. How we are connecting. So that is the interface. So here we are using for any embedded system the communication interface. It may be broadly classified into on-board communication interface and off-board. So on board means which already the person, when you buy the device, they will give inbuilt. So off board means if you want to add, which is not sufficient for us, we need to add, that is comes under the off board. Okay, so this communication topic is very important. Communication interface, they will ask you define communication interface and types of communication interface. Okay, so little deep we need to go. So today we'll like just give a little summary on this. In the next videos we'll have a deep of each and every interface. Okay, so onboard communication interface, the name itself, it is an onboard inbuilt device. It's an internal communication which is already there in the embedded system, and it is a communication between different components present on the system. So what are the commonly used on the onboard devices? Inter-integrated circuits, serial peripheral interface, universal asynchronous receiver transmitter, one wire interface and parallel interface. So these are different types of communication interface which are very useful for sending the communication between the input and the output, and also we need to see that each and every component is doing efficiently or not when a proper application has been sent to the embedded system. Okay, so thank you. In the next videos we'll discuss about this onboard communication. Thank you.